It's the Brad and John Show.
It is the Brad and John Show. This is the C block, which means we start right around 7:40 or so, but we're late this morning. John, I have to ask you a favor.
Sure.
Hold on a minute. I dropped my mouse. I'm across the room in the other in the studio. I've got the computer right in front of me, and I got a computer behind me. I'm on the computer behind me. Okay. Can you talk for like 30 seconds, and then I'll tell you what I'm doing, which I can't.
I'd be happy to.
Okay, talk for 30 seconds.
So before Brad gets into his story about de-escalating an altercation in Cottleville at the Chick-Fil-A, in which he pulled a Ken Patera, took a giant rock and threw it through Chick-fil-A and said, "Why is no one here on Sunday?" And it reminds us of the phrase, if you scream in the woods and no one's there to hear you, did you still die inside? That's the Brad Hildebrand motto. Adin Ross, according to Wikipedia, was born in the year 2000, and he's an American internet personality and online streamer. Now, from my scan of his Wikipedia page, he's had controversy in the last couple of years because he's been associated with noted social commentator Andrew Tate, among others. Wikipedia lists his associates as a guy named iShowSpeed and Kai Sennett, which I guess are internet streamers and such. So Adin Ross, who Brad's going to discuss at some point in C Block, is a bit of a controversial figure in the internet community.
Okay, hold on a minute, John. I hold on. I'm still having some
and
there.
Brad, by the way, for folks who don't know, Brad revealed last week that Brad does not own laptop computers. In fact, Brad prefers to have desktop computers. Brad actually knows how to build his own computer, and there's some sort of a tech geek store where Brad goes, and you can buy computer components and create your own desktop computer, apparently. So for those of you, if you're ever texting Brad and you say, "Hey, you can update it when you get back to your laptop," just know that you're being factually incorrect. Brad does not have a laptop. He has desktop computers.
I do, and I'm trying to get, can I tell you something, John, which is going to be amaze people?
Yeah, I'm ready to be amazed.
I have an iPhone. I'm pretty much, hold on a minute. I'm still working on this. John, I tell you what I'm doing. I'm on my other computer. Okay, hold on a minute. I have to put in my credit card number here. Talk a little bit more. Talk a little bit more about Adin Ross.
Yeah, so Adin Ross has been banned from various platforms, including Twitter, pre-Elon Musk Twitter, the service Twitch. So I'm not a Twitch guy, but apparently you can go on Twitch and it's popular among gamers, I guess. And then also there was some controversy or a little bit of national global exposure because Adin Ross was going to interview Kanye West. I think this is during one of Kanye's early, I guess you could call it a meltdown. And then Kanye West said that he didn't want to talk to Adin Ross because perhaps Adin Ross is Jewish. And Kanye West allegedly made some sort of a anti-Semitic commentary about how Adin Ross would try to control his message or something to that extent. So it seems as though it's almost as if Adin Ross is like a male version of what the mid-2000s Paris Hilton was. It seems as though he's famous for being famous. At least he interacts with a lot of high-profile people. I don't seem to see if he has any sort of, perhaps he's a skilled gamer. Perhaps he's really good at that. I don't know. It just appears as though he's famous for being controversial.
I'm almost done, John. Hold on a minute.
It's almost as if he's the Bart. He's like the Bart Inman of gaming. You know what I'm saying? Like Bart Inman is not known just for his HVAC skills, but for hobnobbing with popular celebrities. Guys like Jay Randolph, guys like Mike Bush, guys like Tito Landrum. Other famous St. Louis celebrities, guys like Raley, for example. People would be surprised that Bart Inman would be associated with somebody as famous as a Raley or a J.C. Corcoran. But once people knew that Bart was friends with Brad, then they're like, oh, I guess it makes sense for him to circulate with the upper echelon,
Man, I'm not having a good morning, John. Can you talk a little bit more?
Yeah. So I went to Harry Eggleston the other day, and he heard that I was talking about his congressional bid. For those who don't know, Harry Eggleston ran for Congress back in 1996, and he took on a guy named Kenny Hulshoff. Kenny Hulshoff won that Republican primary, ended up defeating a gentleman named Harold Volkmer, and Kenny Hulshoff went on to a long career as a member of Congress. So Eggleston is a big fan of the Brad and John show. Mentioned that Brad said, hey, I think Eggleston still has a facility right there off 270, but he might be in Florida. Eggleston texted me, brought me down, chartered a flight to send me down to Florida, where I had LASIK done on my eyes. You know, Brad, I'm a middle-aged man. And I said, there's only one condition. I don't want to hear at any point in LASIK, I don't want to hear you say, oh, and then the S word. And I'm about 30 seconds in and I hear Harry go, oh, S word. And I said, oh my God, I'm going to turn into Brad Hildebrand. And it turns out Harry leaned down and whispered, just kidding. So after a couple hours, Brad, I was able to be dismissed from the hospital. He chartered a flight for me to come back here to St. Louis. I had a wonderful weekend. And now I can see perfectly.
Okay, John, spell acoustic torture for me, please, okay?
ACOUSTIC space TORTURE.
Okay, I now own officially acoustictorture.com.
Nice. Very good, Brad.
Okay.
I wondered why it took you time to log in. Did you have to go to GoDaddy and do the privacy domain and everything?
I had to get the two-factor identification, all that kind of crap. Okay. Adin Ross. I talk about this all the time, and there's a method to my madness. I watch all these crazy car guys, Whistling Diesel, who now
Do they promote each other, though, Brad?
Oh, this is the whole story, John. Whistling Diesel is coming up on, I believe, 10 million subscribers, okay? And he is making huge amounts of money per day, okay? I mean, just crazy numbers, money. Here, let me just do
You could look it up, but how about we get to the point, Brad? You could look up, thanks to a website that you have access to, of how much he makes every day. We don't need to know because you've talked about that a lot. Let's just say he makes a lot of money every day, okay? Get on with the story.
Okay, so he does a collab with Adin Ross. And quite honestly, I knew who Adin Ross was, but I didn't know the background. And I went to the whole deal where you went to and did the background. And he's somewhat controversial because, yes, he is Jewish and there's crazy stuff. And he's got kicked off a bunch of platforms and things like that. Okay, so here's the perfect example. And I watched the Whistling Diesel version of this. Whistling Diesel is doing a thing where he's driving all these crazy cars. He's driving in his jet-powered pickup truck and stuff like that with Adin Ross, and they're cheating death and do all sorts of crazy stuff like that. Okay, but at the same time that Whistling Diesel's crew are filming him, or videotaping him, whatever you want to say, or video recording him. That's not tape anymore. Recording him, the Adin Ross guys are doing the same thing. So in other words, they're both doing this crazy video, but there's going to be a Whistling Diesel version of it and an Adin Ross version. So
what your point is, they're marketing to their own separate audiences and introducing the other audience into themselves.
Which brings me to my point of, on Thursday, Randy Raley posted on his Facebook page. Yes, I'm a boomer. He's a boomer, John. Everybody loves a boomer. He posted on his Facebook page that tomorrow, which would have been Friday, this past Friday, was his last day on the air. Because as a congressional candidate, he's running for Congress, U.S. Congress in Illinois. What district is that, John?
I think it's District 15. It's a safe Republican district that he'll lose.
And her name is what? Mary Hill? Is that
Mary Miller, yeah.
Mary Miller, okay. He's saying that he has to take his show off the air because otherwise the Mary Miller campaign will claim equal time. Now, first off, I'm not criticizing Randy, but this is a often misquoted thing of the FCC rules and regulations. It's not equal time. It's called equal opportunity. I know way too much about this because of the fact this happened to me with not this station, but the other station with crap. At the time, it was KWMO.
And who was running, and what did you tell them, and what did they decline, Brad?
Brian Nieves, okay? Brian Nieves was running for state senate, okay? And this is in the primary. Once again, it was in Franklin County at the time. If you won the primary, you won the election because, there are no Democrats in Franklin County. I think at last count, there's 4 Democrats in Franklin County. And they're trying to get those people on the Amtrak and move them into St. Louis County. All right, let's go. Okay, so he's doing a show for me. And he's done the show for a couple years already. He's on from 7 to 9 in the morning. So Brian declares for state senate, and he's running for the primary. And I get a email from his wife, Karen Stratman, and at the time, Dick was no longer the mayor of Washington, saying that she hereby demands equal time for her husband, Dick Stratman.
For Dick. I mean, if there's one thing that she wanted, it's better access for Dick, right?
Not going to touch that. Okay, so...
And then you offered it to him, and then so Randy Raley misunderstands this, right?
Well, all they have to do, and this is the interesting thing, okay, Randy's on the air, I think, for 3 hours every morning, from 6 to 9, okay? All they have to do is say, if Mary Miller complains, they just say, hey, no problem, Mary. Randy's on the air from 6 to 9, Monday through Friday. That's 15 hours a week, and he's in the studio. So we will give you equal opportunity, not equal time, equal opportunity, and you can do 9 to noon. Come in and do, and that's exactly what I offered to Karen and Dick Stratman. And she goes, well, that's not equal time. I go, well, I can't recreate 7 and 9 o'clock in the morning. So the next thing she says, I'm going to file a complaint with the FCC. And I said, Karen, I just talked to Brian, which I did. I said, how about I give you the ultimate equal time, and you, your husband, and Brian Nieves will do the show together between 7 and 9.
And of course he didn't want to do that.
Of course he didn't want to do that. So then, it's funny because his name came up last week, a guy by the name of Paul Brown calls me because Paul Brown, this is going back, 2010 or it's been a long time ago. Paul Brown calls me and says, hey, Brad, I represent Jack Jackson. Remember Jack Jackson?
Yeah, of course I do.
I represent Jack Jackson, and Jack Jackson is also running for that, and we want equal time. I tell him the same thing. Paul, no problem. Come in at 9 o'clock, and you better get it quick because I've already offered that 9 to 11 shift to Dick Stratman, and he hasn't taken it yet. But if you want it, it's yours. Jack can come in every day, Monday through Friday, and do 9 to 11. Of course, what does Paul say? Well, but that's not equal time. I go, Paul, give me a break.
Let's get to, Brad, with the limited time that we have, let's get to Randy Raley. What about the fact that maybe Randy Raley is tired of doing a show and wants to use this as an excuse to not do 3 hours of radio every morning?
He posts this long post. Oh, the Donzi family's so great. They're going to still keep me on staff. And if I lose the primary in March, they're going to let me come back on the air. And if I make it all the way to the November primary, then the November election, if I make it into Congress, then they're going to put a Randy Raley Hall of Fame sticker on the radio station, and I'll be wonderful. And once again, I don't have his phone number. I send, I don't DM people typically. I don't messenger. I put a post on his page. Randy, come on the air Monday morning. I'll be more than happy to talk to you about this. Let's talk about this because of the fact that you have a way around this. Just tell them that, okay, Mary, you can do 9 to noon every single day.
But what I'm getting at, Brad, is that maybe Randy doesn't want that. Maybe Randy wants to take a little break from radio.
No.
And this is a good excuse.
No, John, the interesting part of this is somehow backwards in the Randy Raley thing because Randy is a Democrat. Normally, this tactic is used by the Democrats against Republicans, as in the case with Brian Nieves a lot of times. The Democrats will say, well, look, we'll claim equal time. And that way, because they don't want equal time, you know what they really want, John? Tell me,
what do they want?
They want the other person off the air.
Yeah.
They don't, and if you call their bluff and say, okay, fine, we get it. We'll give you equal time. And if they say, well, no, hold on a minute now. 9 to noon is not the same as 6 to 9 because 6 to 9 is morning drive, and there's more people listening than in the morning drive than 9 to noon.
And then give them another opportunity. Brad, with a minute left, do you have time to get into? You suggested earlier that in C Block you'd talk about some of the things that provided you a rough time last week.
I don't know if I want to talk about John.
You don't have to, Brad.
The week was capped off by a Karen who yelled at me, and she yelled at me because, you ready for this? You'll get a kick out of this.
Yeah.
My car radio was too loud.
Oh, typical teenager over there.
Right. My car radio was too loud. And then when I said to her, ma'am, I'm deaf in one ear. And she says, yeah, right. And I go, I'm also blind in one eye. And she says to me, "What are you doing driving on the roads if you're blind in one eye?" I pulled up my driver's license.
And Brad, you were in Cottleville when this happened?
No, I pulled out my driver's license. I said, "See right there, restriction Y, which means I have to have an outside rearview mirror." And she says, "Well, every car has to have that." I go, "Yeah, I know. It's an old stupid rule. And because of the fact that I'm legally blind in my one eye, I have to have that on my driver's license." So then she says to me, are you ready for this?
I can't wait.
"You're bothering my dog."
Can you give us a general geography of where in town you were?
I'm not going to say.
Were you in St. Charles County or St. Louis County?
I'm not going to say.
Okay, yeah. I understand.
And I had a rough week already. And the interesting thing was, I thought to myself, okay, I'm going to channel Tom Grisham. And by this time, the funny part of it was, I had the car turned off. The radio was no longer playing. And she yells at me again, "Turn down your radio." And I go, "Ma'am, my car's off. I don't have the radio on anymore." And she says, "I didn't notice." I'm like, okay.
Yeah, that defeats the... Did you learn something about cruising for women at Del Mar Gardens?
John.
Does this give you a lesson about why you shouldn't hang out in the handicap spots at Del Mar Gardens?
John, you know what? I have to tell you, over the weekend, I did some real soul searching. I thought to myself, you know what? I'm an old guy. Maybe I should do just what John said. Maybe I should just make radio my hobby, and I pass these places all the time. Matter of fact, there's a place on the way to work that has a sign out that says, matter of fact, it's funny, they have 4 signs in 4 different languages. I'm not kidding. There's one in Chinese, there's one in German, there's one in Spanish, and there's one in English, and they say, "Immediate interviews, walk-ins welcome." I'm thinking about just driving there and saying, "Hey, kind of get a job here, and I can't get here till about 8:15 or 8:20, but I can be here every morning, and I can work till 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night, as long as I get home and get about 5, 6 hours worth of sleep for me to go on the air with John in the morning and see what they say."
That's all you need. And I heard that DNR is looking for some people to do a little recent work in Coldwater Creek.
Yeah,
the area well, Brad.
You're looking for volunteers to get into the middle of Coldwater Creek to take some water samples, and they'll provide you with the waders, but they don't necessarily say the waders are watertight. But yes, that's what they're saying.
Life is looking up, Brad. It's going to be a good week for you, and you're on an upward trend compared to last week.
Yes, last week sucked. Hopefully this will be better. Okay, John, talk to you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.